Tomorrow morning, President-elect is escorted from his residence to Kasarani with full presidential motorcade, equal in number to what President Uhuru has. Once at Kasarani, the president is expected to receive 3 items, 3 instruments of power. And they are: 1, the Constitution. The Constitution signifies that we are a country that rules by law. So he is given the supreme law, which is the Constitution. And is handed over to him by the outgoing president. The outgoing president will also hand over to him the sword. The sword is a sign of leadership. It's a sign of authority. It is the seat of the presidency. And the sword is being given tomorrow has been in use for the last 50 years. The first president, Mzee Jomo Kenyatta, was the first one to receive, and it has been handed over time. Tomorrow, it is being handed over by President Uhuru to President-elect William Ruto. Then the third item, which he will be saying, I am the commander-in-chief. To signify that, there will be a 21-can salute. And after that is done, I think then he takes the oath of office. After he has taken the oath of office, then the flags, the presidential standard flags, will now be exchanged on the masts. The one for the outgoing president comes down, and the one for the incoming president goes up. And they are all happening in the presence of the national flag. The national flag will be flying in that midst. When all that is done, President-elect now is the President of the Republic of Kenya. You have asked me whether it is mandatory that the President lives inside State House. It is not. It is not. But he has got the right of living inside State House. President Jomo Kenyatta lived inside State House. Mwai Kibaki lived inside State House. President Moi did not live inside State House, Nairobi. So the choice is William Ruto's. If he so decides to live inside State House, it is his choice. If he so decides to live in his house, it is his choice. But when he goes to live in his house, the government will have to pay rent for that house. The government will have to provide 24/7 security in that house. Complete. He has got to provide that. And he can also organize, the government can also organize for him to have a small office within that house, so that he can be meeting people who may want to pay him courtesy in his residence. So that can happen.
I am a coffee!
You have asked me about the do's and the don'ts in State House. They are contained in Public Order Act. They are contained in the Civil Service Code of Regulations. Take note, State House has an accounting officer, like there is an accounting officer in every ministry. So Private Secretary Comptroller is indeed the accounting officer of State House. And he runs an account like every other principal secretary. That is what he does. He runs it that way. And he runs like any other ministry in terms of management of the affairs of State House. When the president gives instructions, there are 2 persons who would be held responsible for those instructions. One, the person known as Private Secretary Comptroller of State House, and the head of public service. So invariably, the head of public service almost works out of State House, notwithstanding the fact that he sits in Harambee House. But he receives instructions to tell this minister to tell that PS, to tell all that stuff. That is the man who is coordinating instructions from the president. Those instructions can also be relayed to the head of the civil service by the private secretary comptroller. Right? If the private secretary comptroller tells the minister something, it's incumbent upon that private secretary comptroller to also tell the head of public service, so that there is coordination, so there is some synergy in working within that state house. The president has got an appointment in Kiambu, for example. So you have got to ask yourself, where are we going in Kiambu? Are we ready in Kiambu? Who is receiving us in Kiambu? What is the function in Kiambu? Does it require written speech? Does it require verbal, just open address? If it does, do we have the notes for the president to read before going to that function? So that when he speaks from a position of knowledge, a position of authority when he now decides, because he will be seeing some information about that situation at Kiambu. Now, the escort commander will also be asking himself various questions. Where are we going through? Which route are we going through? Where are we likely to have problems? So he has got to have all those in mind. Have I cleared the way? So that is, all those things have got to run in. The fellow of the Presidential Press Service will have to be also ready with his cameras. The president may stop along the way. There's a person who is sick, and the president may want to stop and assist that person. You have got to get it to the public to know that your president today, when he was going to Kiambu, found an expectant mother about to deliver, and he stopped to help. So the fellows of the Presidential Press also have got to be able to think, are we able to have a camera out in Kiambu, and are we traveling with another camera? So all those things have got to be done. The gatekeeper of State House, I think, is the president himself. Is the owner of the office. He's the one who would say who would come in. He's the one who would authorize Franklin Bates to go into State House. The private secretary comptroller is only a facilitator. He only facilitates those appointments. Because you come as X, I want to see the president. He says yes, and he notes down, and he goes to the president. X would wish to see you. The president may ask you, what does he want? He's not asking in a bad way, because he may tell you, can you ask him to go and see so-and-so, Minister so-and-so, or private sector, or governor of central bank, or name it, whatever that person wanted. So he's asking, not in bad faith, not in a way to deny to see you, but in a way of delegation and reducing the clutter in his office. So that is what he may do. But at the end of the day, for the president to be seen, it is the president himself to give you the green light, not you doing and not informing him. It's got to be informed. Okay, I agree. The comptroller of State House will be blamed for blocking people from seeing the president. I agreed as myself to take the blame. But at the end of the day, I know what has gone on between me and the president on that person who is now complaining. And that is why the president also has got to stand up and support his officers, so that his officers are not thrown under the bus for no apparent reason.